Welcome everybody to another segment with Living Technologies. This is an educational segment where I'm being interviewed by two different parties that are partners in northern part of Australia. Matt Brown, who is a scientist, and Georgina Hale, who is a virologist and also a functional medicine doctor. She has a clinic, I believe, in northern Australia, near Darwin, and they found my product on YouTube and wanted to interview me about the in-depth information that I have about this product and how it can assist people's guts and also assist you with autoimmune compromised conditions. So if you're interested in learning more in-depth information of how this product works and all that, feel free to listen to this 1-hour video on Facebook. Also wanted to let you know, and also on YouTube and other places where I'll be posting this information. You can find our product on living-technologies.info, our Super Immune Activator Kit.
Anyway,
nice to meet you. And what kind of questions after I sent you that email do you have for me? And maybe we can take it from there. I can answer some of your questions in terms of.
okay. Well, not many, just a few brief ones. First of all, how do you decaseинate the colostrum? Do you cook it, or do you just?
No, these are great questions. Very few people understand how the kefir grains, which is the live culture, work. Okay, so one of the main. Oh, and here's Georgina. Hi, Georgina.
Right. Okay.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
So we're talking about the casein. One of the key things that the kefir grains overcome is the casein and the sugars in the raw milk, because it feeds off of that. It literally feeds off the casein and it feeds off the sugars in the raw milk. It is essential that you use raw milk. You do not want to use cooked milk because it kills everything in the milk. And I've made some amazing discoveries that through people using the Super Immune Activator and using the fermented raw milk with the kefir grains, people are getting pretty phenomenal results due to the fact that, and especially people like you were stating, my sister's a chiropractor physician, and she said the same thing. She said, I'm highly allergic to casein. I can't eat any dairy products because of the casein. I said, you don't have to worry about it. All you have to do is ferment it a little bit longer than most people, ferment it for 2 or 3 days with the kefir grains. Now, because you're using a live culture, it'll continue to ferment. So after 10 days, if you don't have a sealed, I have a gentleman that's manufacturing for me some tops for the jars where it gets rid of the alcohol level and also the bitter taste. Because after 10 days, the milk turns very, very kind of sour and bitter. And the alcohol level increases because you're using a live culture. What happens is that it continues to ferment ongoingly. So it never stops fermenting. And the fermentation process is what gets rid of the casein and gets rid of the sugars, because that's what the kefir grains eat. That's what feeds them and makes them grow.
So even in the fridge, the fermentation continues even at 4 degrees?
Yes. It does, slowly.
Right.
It's a slower process.
Right.
Like, for example, I change my milk every month for my kefir grains that I have in my fridge. You know, when I put fresh milk in it, I put my grains that I use for my fermentation, for my GcMAF that I use myself. It takes about a month for it to ferment very slowly in the fridge. If I left it out at room temperature within 24 hours, the whole milk is fermented. The solids will separate from the whey. And some people are allergic to whey. So what I tell them is, okay, it's easy to separate the solid milk, the raw milk, from the whey. The whey is a yellow liquid, either will rise to the top or be at the bottom. And all you have to do is grab a spatula and push the solids to the side and let the liquid come out from the whey, which is the protein in the milk, okay?
Is that, practically speaking, is that easy to do?
It's really easy. I just did it yesterday. I wish I would have kept my jar, but you know what, I gotta share this with you as well, is what I've noticed is when I leave the whey in my GcMAF, it speeds up the process of the bitterness, and the taste, you know, starts to kind of denigrate the taste of the raw milk where it becomes very sour. So I have a preference of taking the whey out, like as soon as it separates, just for my preference.
Because I think there's a lot of people that are sensitive to whey,
Right.
as well as casein. I'm a bit whey sensitive, so I get a sore throat eating yogurt. So just for me, what was the advantage of the raw milk?
Okay, the raw milk, this is my discovery. And this is what's so sad about all these government agencies and all who of course are in bed with the pharmaceutical companies, is the raw milk has certain elements that when you cook it, you kill it. So you're killing the enzymes to be able to digest it. You're killing tons of probiotics because the kefir grains came from the milk. They came from the raw milk 7,000 years ago. It's a 7,000-year-old culture. The milk itself contains 750 different varietals of probiotics. It contains 40 beneficial yeasts. And that's what's healing people. It's in combination with the GcMAF. Now, when Matt was asking me, well, do you have any test results? I'm like, not really, because I'm a medical intuitive, so I can't send the clients that come to us. I can't say, you're my patient, and I need to have you take the GcMAF and go do a blood test. While, you know, you're going to have to take the GcMAF at the lab and probably wait about 20 minutes to get in the bloodstream, because that's the only way to test if the GcMAF is working, is in the lab while they take the blood out to see if the macrophage activate themselves. Now, one of the things—
So looking at the macrophage activation, you can't really measure GcMAF level.
You can't. No, you can't.
So what test is that called? The macrophage.
The macrophage activator test, I'm not sure. I'm going to have to do some research. David, okay, so the only guy, and he's in jail right now, unfortunately, is David Nokai, who was actually had a lab in the Jersey Islands, in the UK. They stole his money. So he actually moved his lab and his whole process to Switzerland, and now somebody on YouTube let me know that he's been in jail for 1.5 years now, because his process is they were extracting from the raw milk solids, right, and from the process of getting the GcMAF, their serum. And he is the only one, I'm telling you, that had the test results to prove that there was GcMAF contained in his serum. The only one. And that's probably why they put him in jail.
The serum, did you say? In what serum?
And he creates a GcMAF serum, like Bravo has that serum, I forget what they call it, that is an ampule that costs $500, you know, that stuff. Okay, so David was doing the same thing, but he actually was able to prove with his test, and you can, I'll send you the link to his website, because his website, I believe it's still up, I'm not sure.
And what's happened to his setup there in Switzerland?
I don't know if after they put him in jail, it all collapsed. I'm not sure. I have to find out from the gentleman that posted that on my YouTube videos. He went into one of my YouTube videos and said, hey, by the way, they put David in jail, you know, and I was very upset and disappointed because he was one of the prime scientists that were really doing their job. Whereas, you know, maybe Ruggiero and the other guy in Switzerland rediscovered, that's the other thing, is that there was a gentleman 40 years ago, a scientist, that discovered this in the US with the raw milk and the kefir, not the kefir grains, and the yogurt to make GcMAF, okay? And they gave it to Ruggiero, and then Ruggiero did all this research, and of course the FDA gave it to Ruggiero, you know, and did all this research. And with their product, when you cook the milk, you're destroying all the key elements to the milk that are going to heal the body. The other thing you have to realize, that is my discovery, and I did this by deduction, it's very simple. What do cows eat, especially grass-fed cows? Grass.
Grass.
What's underneath the grass? Mycelia. Soil. What's in the soil? Mycelia. Now, if you study with one of the prime mycologists on the planet, Paul Stamets, okay? He has discovered that the mycelia in the ground is actually, and there's certain types of mycelia that will instantly heal the earth if it has a lot of toxins in it, you know, human toxicity. And the other thing he's discovered is if there's giardia or a lot of bacteria, bad bacteria, that mycelium will actually heal the earth as well. So what do you think it's doing in our bodies? You just got to deduct that and go, oh, well, if the cows eat the grass contains mycelia. That's my discovery about it. And it also contains all these beneficial probiotics and the good yeasts. So what you're doing is refortifying the body, especially the intestinal tract, with all these different substances that can start to heal it. Challenge is if you have, and most people on the planet right now, all the people that are coming to me for consultation, advice, etc., you know, it's either they have two issues. They either have the issue, as we know, with them putting that chemical into the vaccines that actually prevents your vitamin D from absorbing into the body. And I forgot the name of that particular
Nagalase.
Yes, thank you. And then with that, you have to do the broccoli sprouts. You know, 30 to 60 milligrams of broccoli sprouts will, and I tell people you need to do that about 3 months, detox out with the sulforaphane, detox out the nagalase, and then you can absorb it. The second biggest problem, and I don't know if you're encountering that in your practice, is that most people, their intestinal tract lining is disappearing. It's actually leaky gut. You can call it whatever you want, but what I found is most people that have diarrhea or constipation all the time, or a combination of both, and they go back and forth, the lining of the intestinal tract is dissolved because of Roundup and what Roundup contains inside of it. And people all around the world have used Roundup. So that's the other big issue. And if you don't have an intestinal tract that doesn't have a lining, and you're pouring all these good probiotics and everything, they're just going to go right through you. And people are going to get, like my brother, he said, oh my God, I got more diarrhea than I can possibly, he was sick in bed for 2 days. He couldn't take this product. So there is a solution to that. It's zinc, ionized zinc with Saccharomyces boulardii, and they have to do that for about 6 months. They have to do a 6-month treatment with just those 2 supplements that rebuild the gut intestinal tract lining. Once the intestinal tract lining is built, then when you put the probiotics in, they start to function better. And then you can have the microbiome start to rebuild itself. So those are the major challenges that I've discovered with this product. You know, with our product or anybody's GcMAF, that some people, you know, react really well because they have a good gut lining, and some that don't, it's because they don't have a good gut lining. And it's because of the glyphosates. And the glyphosates do eat up the gut lining. So those are I want to share with you guys the major challenges, you know, that we're having health-wise with people, and them using this product to heal cancer. Now, I will tell you this: I've had people that have had prostate cancer. I have 4 gentlemen. One that chose to go the medical route and to actually do the oncology stuff, and he's dying. And the other 3 guys that have been doing the implants with the GcMAF raw kefir milk, and they're getting better and they're healing.
What's an implant?
I actually have people do anal implants, you know, or so they actually. So I have 3 gentlemen that actually what they'll do is they'll take a syringe, not with the metal part, just the plastic tube. Okay, they'll fill a 5 millimeter syringe and they will shove it up the anal cavity. And what they've told me is they do not leak, and it's actually healing their prostate cancer. So if it's
their prostate cancer.
So if it's healing their prostate cancer, there is GcMAF in it.
And they're also taking it orally?
And they're taking it orally. And the other thing that I had a very severe case of shingles from here all the way down. Okay, all of a sudden, and of course, you know, I did have the chicken pox, which it mutates into this virus. And I put it on topically because I've been using my product since I started the videos, okay? And I put it on topically probably for a week or 2 weeks, no more shingles, completely gone. I had another case in another part of my body that was from like the inner part of the upper part of my thigh, leg going down, and I did the same thing, and within a week, completely gone, okay? So when you put it on topically, it also, because the macrophage is going to go in because it's a micron. So it goes into the blood and it goes into the bloodstream through the skin. So all kinds of people, the other issues that I have had experience with, I had one woman, her name is Grace, came to see me. She had cancer on her lower part of her legs, and she also actually had Morgellons. And so she's a vegan, she refuses to take it internally, so I said, you know, you need to put it on topically and do it 4 to 5 times a day. She did that. After a month, she went and a chiropractor a chiropractor that sees us, I referred her to, and he said, I want you to go get tested. I want to see if the cancer's still there. She went to get tested after a month of use, negative, no more cancer. And no more Morgellons. It does get rid of Morgellons. Because I've had people that have the pot marks on their calves. He had that and very itchy. It's like you can't stop itching. And so I had him do the same process and it got rid of his Morgellons as well.
Have you had people that haven't been able to use raw milk, use your product? And
actually, I haven't. When the only people that haven't been able to use it are the people that are afraid of the casein or the sugars or the whey. And we found our way around it because when you ferment the milk, you're completely changing the structure of it and how the body can actually absorb it.
So you don't think it'd work if you used just normal organic milk or anything? You haven't seen that used?
I haven't seen the same results. Let me put it that way to you, Georgina. If you use regular pasteurized or ultra pasteurized, not the same results. Even if you ferment it, and some of my clients that have actually purchased from us came back and said, you know, when I fermented it with pasteurized milk, it didn't turn out, and I didn't have the same results. So that's the people's feedback, obviously, of the people that have purchased the product. And when they changed over to raw milk, completely different experience. Because you have the enzymes to digest, you have all the good probiotics that are already in the raw milk and in the kefir grains. So it's really fortified. When you're kind of like what Ruggiero did, right? He does the yogurt and cooks the yogurt at 180 degrees. When you do that, you're killing everything in the milk. You're basically making it inert. Then you put one single yogurt bacteria into it to ferment it, and then you add the other 26 probiotics. In this case, what you have is you have 750 probiotics that you're fermenting in the raw milk that already has that, and the kefir grains already have it, and it really activates it. So people that have gut issues, actually that have been on my product, it's actually the reverse. Instead of having allergies and having all kinds of issues, they start getting rid of their allergies. They start to heal. You know, they don't come back to me and go, the only people, like I said, that come back to me and go, I can't do the raw milk and I can't do the kefirs, like my brother, my oldest brother, that basically came back and said, I have diarrhea like you would not believe. And I said, stop taking it. And that's when I had him do the Saccharomyces, and I started to have him do the zinc. And he's been on it for 3 months. He was only on eggs and rice diet. He couldn't eat anything else. And now he's integrating other veggies into it, and he's not having diarrhea. And I said, you need to wait 6 months to probably 9 months of just doing the Saccharomyces with the zinc to restore your intestinal tract lining. And once you have it fully restored, then you can do the GcMAF, and it'll have a phenomenal result. So the only people that complain about that is that because they do not have the intestinal tract lining. but everybody else is having rave reviews. And that's why if I get a chance, some people just buy the product, but if I get a chance to talk to people that buy it before they do, I kind of do a little consultation with them and I go, tell me what's going on with your gut. Do you have diarrhea after you eat, or do you have the opposite? Or do you have constipation? You know, if you have constipation, you know, there's more of a chance that you could do the GcMAF and also do the Saccharomyces and the zinc at the same time. If you have diarrhea, forget it. Don't even go there. You know, get them on the Saccharomyces, get their gut lining to rebuild itself, and then do that. Now, the other thing that I'm finding with a lot of people is that they have, like I did, I had so much candida fungus, okay, not albicans, but it came out of my gut because I had leaky gut. Huge amounts of it. And I did have leaky gut, and how I cured it, it's gone now. I do not have leaky gut, was by doing not just the GcMAF implants, anal implants, and doing a cleanse first, you know, kind of going to hydrotherapy, doing a hydrotherapy cleanse, and then putting the implant. I actually did colostrum implants, and that healed it. So the colostrum in warm water and cleansing out the colon first, and then doing the implants, totally healed my leaky gut. I have no more leaky gut. And I had the opposite issue than most. I had an impacted intestine from age 5 to age 10. So my intestinal tract was very, very dry and tends to be very dry. And I get more constipated than I get the opposite. And so when I did that, it actually, I was having normal bowel movements like I'm having now, 2 to 3 times a day. I used to have bowel movements.
And
so they still have to do the, if they do that, the anal implants, do they still need to do, will that speed up the Saccharomyces and the zinc process, or are they two separate?
No, it actually could speed
Depending on
it up because of the mycelia. That's the other thing that you have to realize, because the mycelia is in the milk. In other words, the mycelia is a good fungus, okay, a beneficial fungus that's in the milk that actually speeds up and actually moves through the microbiome a lot quicker into the rest of the body to heal it. So when you're doing,
we'll probably work that out, Matt. Yeah,
and
I'd say
transports
some of our patients.
Go ahead.
Some of the patients probably wouldn't tolerate it, but we could do the Saccharomyces boulardii and the zinc and just sort of chip in a little bit of the yogurt.
Right, I would do it
because we're always working on their gut. That's what we do in functional medicine. So
sure, I get it.
We can refer people to your website after we've given them a trial, for example.
Sure.
But I mean, we might make a little bit that people can try our end, but you know, it's a whole new world to sort of start distributing it ourselves.
And Georgina, we have lots of chiropractors. I talk to a lot of physicians all over the world that actually just refer their patients to our website. You know,
what's your kind of impression of how many sort of realizing this embargo and, you know, this realizing that's a very much a risky business to get into, but are still doing it?
Well, there's less and less. I think that's why most of these alternative medicine, I'm going to say, practitioners are referring their patients to us, is because if they start to sell it themselves, they start to get persecuted, especially here in the States. In Australia, in the UK, everywhere. You know, you talk about that, it's a bad word. But because this is a whole food that you're dealing with, you're dealing with colostrum, kefir grains, raw milk, and the probiotics that we have, you know, the little jar, that before I discovered there was 750 good probiotics in the milk, I was like, well, I have to kind of do it the same as Ruggera, and you know, and that's the carrier that starts to heal the body and regenerate the body.
Well, I mean, just straight off, we were not going to invest in that kind of hundreds of dollars. And I mean, I personally thought, well, this is a rip-off, and it's a shame because most people are fairly desperate and they've
No,
done a lot of their money
you
on
mean.
other kind of useless functions stuff.
And see, this is
So
why we kept
what
our
was that,
price
Matt?
so low. You know, this is
Yeah.
why we didn't want to do what Ruggiero did. Because we could
Yeah, I mean,
charge.
it's just another rip-off, and it's not in the spirit of what we're up against. So pretty
and
dumb.
we're kind
I
of,
mean, I basically have extremely sick people. We're talking, you know, highly immunocompromised, and we're going to get a flood of these people in future. So I don't know what it's going to look like. But do you know of any outside the Western world where they seem hell bent on killing us or giving everyone cancer? Do you know whether there's any research or people in, say, Russia or Japan or who've been allowed to do any of this, or whether there's any experience of it?
are you talking about the GcMAF research, or are you talking about, yeah, actually in Japan, there's a Japanese company, and I forgot the name of it. I'll have to email that to you, that actually originated the research about 30, 40 years ago, and they're still alive. They do the GcMAF capsules. I don't know if you've seen them. And they also do the serum, but they do the serum. They sell it here in the States. They're really smart. They sell it as a facial, you know, kind of enhancer. They don't really sell it as injected into the cancerous areas. So that's one that's
What's that company?
I'll have to email it to you. I'll have to ask my friend Neil, because he actually was distributing the capsules for them. So I'll ask them what the name of the company, and I'll send you the link. The other one that in Russia, I haven't heard of anybody doing this research. Mostly Japan. Japan.
So nothing in Russia or Scandinavia or anything?
Well, there must be, because the actual kefir grains originated in the Caucasus Mountains. And this is why the people in the Caucasus Mountains lived to 120, 130s, because they were fermenting their milk, their raw milk.
Yeah, so yeah, because I'm just wondering which countries maybe maybe not hell bent.
Japan definitely is one of them. Okay, that's not compromised, that they don't have people like the FDA after them. Forget China. Russia, I just haven't, nobody has approached me from Russia saying, hey, you know, we have this product and we want to talk to you about it. But I could probably do some research and find out, you know, because Neil he's also in search of, you know.
All right, what we're probably going to do is get a packet over here from Australia, but what I'll do is also
shipping any product to Australia. We've been doing it or New Zealand, or the only places that I won't ship to is somewhere in the Middle East, because they steal things, or Mexico.
Yeah.
But customs, and it says right there, it says life, culture, kefir grains. And because they're used to ferment milk, they don't have an issue. So we haven't had
I mean, we've probably got a fairly reliable source of kefir grain here, so that's what we can do. Yeah.
Actually, Dom is amazing. He has amazing research on it, and I'll send you his link.
All right. Well, if you've got those links, that's what we'll need.
Yeah, we'll send you that for sure.
We can also get some of your stuff sent to Dr. Mary, who I'm visiting in May, just in early May.
Sure.
That'll reduce shipping and things.
Yeah.
So we'll get some stuff.
Now we've had people here in the U.S. that are on another protocol that have tested our colostrum for any glyphosates or any kind of toxins, and it's pure and clean, and there's nothing in it, and it's organic, grass pasture, it's freeze dried.
We have some good raw milk sources. We've got this Cleopatra milk.
Great.
It's bath milk. You know, they've got to sell it as bath milk.
And the cool thing about the kefir grains is that because it's a live culture, and if you have the right temperature and the right consistency and the right type of milk, and you're feeding it a lot of good casein and sugar, they'll grow like crazy and double and triple and quadruple. So because it is the live.
How many cats do you have?
7. Oh my God. I got 2 cats, a boy and
I love that one. I love that one with the stripy tail. The cream one.
Oh, the cream one, yeah, and that's the mom over there, if you could believe it.
Oh, yeah.
We had two, a male and a female, and they bred 4 females. And we were trying to give them away, but nobody wanted them, so we ended up keeping them. So we ended up with 6 cats, and then
Well, they're obviously very active.
yeah, they actually, when they were born and as they were growing, and I do want to share this with you, I was feeding them the GcMAF, the raw milk, and we just had surgeries on all of them to get them fixed. And the gray one that you saw, she's a link Siamese. I don't know where she came from these two, but we sent her to a vet that butchered her. And when she came home, the doctor was saying, "Oh, don't put any oils on it, essential oils," or and I'm like, yeah, whatever. And they use this surgical thread that's synthetic that made them, it was kind of getting infected, and it was actually getting very red, and there was some balls, and I started to put the GcMAF topically on it, and within about 3 days, it was completely healed.
What do you feed them?
Raw salmon, raw chicken, raw beef, all organic, or ocean, and I do give them some stuff to get rid of the heavy metals from the ocean. But that's what they get fed. Sometimes they'll get canned food, but for the most part, they get fed raw. So they're very healthy. And no vaccines,
Oh, really?
No vaccines. No, it's kind of like the same thing with people. The vaccines now have, and this is the thing that's very disconcerting, like you said, they want to depopulate the planet. And most people that come to us, I have nurses. Yeah, that's the current
We know about that.
Yeah,
So,
and
it's
there are
no surprise. It's just the extent of the program is, the full impact of it. I've only just kind of realised, and it's actually quite traumatic.
It is.
I feel as though I need some therapy to
process it, because it's very I went through this because of my discovery, right? I started going down the rabbit hole, and I was like, oh my God. But one of the things I wanted to share with you, Georgina, there's a couple of products that we have on our website that are very good detoxers, that are completely natural, that get rid of the glyphosates, and they get rid of the aluminum, and that actually, 2 of them, the biofilm, which is a brown seaweed extract that comes from Russia.
We have the Aclonia cava here.
What's that?
We've got some Aclonia cava.
Okay. So
that's a brown seaweed.
Right. That's great.
And it comes from Korea or something.
Okay. As long as it's clean, you're fine. And the biofilm is great, but the other product that is phenomenal is the Miracore EPA. Look it up on our website, and I'll send you the link. It's Miracore EPA. It gets rid of glyphosates. It gets rid of heavy metals. It helps cure cancer. It's a great detox. I do it every night before I go to bed. I do 9 drops every night because we have to detox all the time. And they're spraying us. And the stuff that's in the spray, I've gone down that rabbit hole. Oh my God. Their aerosol spraying that they're doing. I mean, they're putting in fetus parts and toxins and pathogens. So part of the reason probably why I'm so healthy is because I do my GcMAF. And I didn't do it because I had cancer. I had it once, a long time ago. I do it because I want to really boost up my immune system, and I want to have a lot of probiotics in my body that will fight these pathogens that they're spraying us with.
Well, I've no doubt that I would get cancer because of my family history somewhere. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to hold back on all the stuff that Klinghardt suggests. And he takes his yogurt and his Retro V kind of stuff every day, and
well,
that's the only reassurance we have.
Right, and that's what I tell people is that your defense is to do the raw kefir milk and turn it into GcMAF and take that every day internally. And one of the things, Dr. Sawinski, who sends me patients, and he's in Southern California, did a suggestion. He said, have your clients, before they actually ingest the GcMAF, half an hour before, do half a teaspoon of sodium bicarbonate with no aluminum in it in 4 ounces of water, drink that, wait half an hour, and then do the GcMAF because of the acidic acids in our stomach. So that's why the implants work so well, is because when you do the anal implants or vaginal implants, and I've done both, it actually goes right into the bloodstream. And
probably shouldn't wait half an hour. I mean, if you want to neutralize gastric acid, you probably don't need half an hour.
Probably not. It probably only like 15 minutes or so, and then you can take GcMAF. So that's
okay. So that's another way to do it is a syringe rectally. So
right, exactly.
Because you do get a lot of absorption in the rectum.
Huge amount of absorption. You know,
and then you can get the other stuff down the other way.
Right, and I've actually had women that have come to me with vaginal or cervical cancer and cancer inside the uterus, and what I've suggested is do the implants, put your feet up, elevate your feet, find a bunch of pillows or something that you can put up on your feet, and just lay there for about half an hour on the bed after you do the implant, so that it could go up into the body so you don't, spritz it out. The other option that I tell people is in a bath, while you have the bath, because the pressure of the water will keep it inside of you, you can spritz it in there and leave it, for 20, 30 minutes while you're in the bath. And when you come out, it's all absorbed into the body. And people have had.
Have you had any results with gynecological cancers then?
Yes, I have. Have
you had any people who hadn't responded and that you haven't worked out why, or is it all because of difficulty administrating and couldn't tolerate it or whatever?
Actually, the only people that haven't gotten better are the people that are ready to go. They come to me at the last hour and they've had chemotherapy and they've had radiation and they've had all these things and their immune system is toast. So there was one woman that came to
breast cancer as well.
Breast cancer as well. I've had good success with that. And what I tell people to do, the women is, or men, not chest cancer, I guess, put it on topically, and it has reduced their tumors, and also taking it internally. I tell them to put it in every orifice you could possibly put it into. Yeah. And they have great. There's one other thing, is lung cancer. I had a woman, still have that woman, she's in Canada, and her brother had a 10 millimeter, I believe, cancerous tumor in his lungs. And so what I suggested for her to do it, and we did put that on the website, so I'll send you the link. We did a blog on it, to have an inhalator. And what I have them use instead of the milk solids, because you can't do that with the inhalator, they have to use the whey. So just a couple of drops of whey in the inhalator and breathe it in, with a little bit of hydrogen peroxide, food grade hydrogen peroxide, like 1 or 2 drops of hydrogen peroxide. And I gave that recipe to the woman that was in Canada with her brother, and she said that after a month of doing this process, his cancer was reduced in half. That tumor shrunk half.
So it's going to spread like wildfire. So is the knowledge that there is a major problem with things like our air, our vaccines, etc. It's just that the enormity of the crime is just not, you can't absorb it straight away. So although there's going to be a lot of people that do know it and do see it and come after you, and people and whatever.
And there's people, like I said, even people in the medical industry, like nurses, come to me. And they have.
Well, I mean, there are doctors and nurses who are awake. And they basically sort of exist in a little bit of isolation, but there definitely are. And and it's just a matter of time. So
it is.
So there need to be enough people who protect themselves so that there's an obvious, change, difference in our health. But so. Have you worked a lot with autism or the kids' autism?
That's the other thing. I have worked with autistic kids, and at least the 5 parents that I've asked to please give me feedback, because that's the only way I can find out if they're improving, was a gentleman in Hong Kong. he was finally able to get raw milk, and his name is Matt, and he had a son that was 4 or 5 years old. And he said that the son's autism was definitely improving. And one of the things that I suggested for him to do is not only for his son to take it internally, like in a smoothie or however he could feed it to him, but also rub it in the back of the neck, you know, because of all the glands, and on the side, yeah, exactly, and the thyroid. And I said, that'll bring it right up to the brain, and that'll start to detox the heavy metals. So in conjunction with actually them taking the AmeriCore EPF, and that's what I suggested for him, it really starts to detox the heavy metals out of the body. And then Alzheimer's or, you know, autism spectrum starts to lower. And they start.
I mean, it's unbelievable what is on the horizon in terms of the brain.
Yeah.
Along with the 5G and, you know, barrage of high level electromagnetic radiation. We as a group, the ICI, the International Society of Environmentally Acquired Illness, we're actually starting to look at the brain volumes in what we call neurovolumetrics, and we're starting to see the tip of the iceberg coming to a big iceberg of complete brain wipeout. Low immunity, so you get an encephalitis, and then you get a toxic encephalitis as well. And we've got the friends of science and so-called trying to poo-poo as fast as they can.
Sure, because they want to launch 5G, right?
This rising knowledge of the brain and the toxins and the infections, and they're trying to sort of get rid of it because there's no evidence. It's just like as soon as someone comes up with it as a possibility, they're trying like crazy. And these are sort of a robotic type of person because they've just caught they've caught it in the net field, and you know they're just parroting. It's just a really bad thing.
I mean, what's going on, and I'm very aware of that because it's frying our brains. It's literally frying our brains is what it's doing.
So you use a satellite internet like we do at the farm?
Yes.
Yeah, we've got no real good phone access, and we're sheltered a lot at the property too.
That's good. I mean, and I gotta be honest with you, here's the positive side of things, negative and positive, and you're probably not aware of this, but we're going into a very heavy duty ice age. I mean, extreme. Yeah. There's extreme weather, and I know you've experienced it. I mean, Queensland right now, and I visited Queensland. I lived in Australia for about 6 months. They had tremendous flooding, right? And then they had tremendous droughts, and it's these extremes because we're entering into basically a 600-year-old cycle ice age that's going to be very intense. And so them trying to launch all these satellites to cause 5G to happen on the planet is not going to happen. There's planes right now that are crashing, going down because the weather is so severe in different places. And that's Mother Nature doing that. So she's doing her cleanup, which to me is a blessing. So we're going to see that. You're going to have that on top of all these very sick people, you know, and starvation. You know, unfortunately, we've lost 80% of the crops globally last year. Just last year on the Great.
And this year is very cold for you. Very cold.
Oh, extremely cold. We've had extreme weather here. We had one day where we had 2 or 3 feet of snow that dropped in 24 hours. And the guys that I listen to, like Adapt 2030, David Dubai, we're gonna go to this show where they're gonna talk about this, the real climate change. He said that in 2020, we're gonna see days where it's gonna snow, and we're gonna get the fall of the same amount of snow that we would have gotten over a year, or rain, or extreme weather. Yep. So we're also going to see the population because of that. And it's already happened.
I mean, an ice age might look a bit different now, so we hope it might look, slightly different from the other ones. It's probably done a lot of...
I mean, the sad thing is that all the governments knew about this, and they all had time to prepare. They all had time to, instead of having this big agra outside, they could have been growing inside vertically, doing all kinds of things and feeding the population, and they chose not to do
No, that wasn't the idea though. Well, I have to go. So maybe Matt can chat a bit further about what our step is to get some things.
Sure, and I will actually remember to send you, as soon as we hang up, I will send you an email with all those links for the AmeriCorps EPA. What else did I share with you that was really important? Oh,
David Nowak or something?
David Dokai's website, and I'll just re-listen to the video, and also I will send you the link for a couple other things that I mentioned here. So you'll have all that information. Oh, the Japanese company that sells the Japanese GcMAF, so you can talk to them. And they do have research papers. They also have provable research papers of their GcMAF.
But they sell it as a cream, but what are they doing the research on? What diagnosis?
They are selling it in a capsule form, and they're selling it as a serum as well. They have the serum, but what they do in order to get to the US, you cannot send the serum to the US. The FDA has cut off, customs. If you get GcMAF serum, I don't care if it's from Riviera or whomever, you cannot get it here in the States anymore.
You have to go over and get it and then smuggle it in and stuff.
So what they do instead is, instead of calling it, because I had a woman that had very aggressive breast cancer, they got on my protocol when I first started, with the videos, and she was injecting it and also doing my protocol, and she's the one that enlightened me and said, oh, they send it to me like it's like instead of them stating that it's GcMAF, they state that it's actually some kind of a product for skincare.
Yeah. Okay.
But even though they send it in an
serum skincare is like a dime a dozen. You have serum for skincare, so.
Oh yeah.
And so they have it in sterile containers
that you can inject. What I used to tell people is that the GcMAF that you could inject, which is 50 times more potent, and that's when I was listening to David Nokai, and his research, and it was 500 times more expensive, actually, for one 10 milliliter bottle is $500. He basically said, and he did give me the studies, he said, if somebody can take this and do a month's worth ongoingly in the affected area and inject the affected area, he actually said where the tumor is, the infected area, the person does recover very fast. So that's his statement. Now, the other person that I'm going to also email you is, there's an Italian medical doctor actually that has discovered that the tumors and the cancer is nothing more than an overgrowth of a very aggressive mold. And it's because of what comes out of the intestinal tract, which is basically the yeast that turns into mold. And he said and he's seen thousands of patients that he's treated, and he's treating his patients with an IV drip of sodium bicarbonate.
Simoncini, right?
Yes, yeah, Simoncini. That's the guy.
Yeah.
And he's having phenomenal results. And apparently in Italy, they're leaving him alone in his clinic. But he basically puts people on, the catheter in there. He lets the drip of the baking soda go in there for 6-7 hours. That's what they do in this clinic. Then after they're done with that, he sends them home. The next day they come back, the tumor's reduced, or they don't have any cancer anymore. So that's another option, for treating patients with this.
Well, I've actually been, I'm not a cancer doc at all. I'm an internist, infectious diseases and malfunction. So I've been, to this point, I've been very reticent to do anything about cancer. But, obviously with what I know now, it's like, well, I'm not going to refuse them.
It's mold, and what
I'm using it, I'm going to be using it on the brain patients, because basically they need all the immune strengthening they can get.
Okay, so the other thing that I want to add to this, Georgina, and I'll send you the link to that as well, is the Immunisys Critical Care from Aloha Medicinals, and you guys can become distributors there and purchase it directly from them, is amazing because it has a very high content of beta glucans. And when I've been sick and I've used it in combination, like I've gotten a very bad sore throat, in combination with GcMAF, like within 24 hours, all the symptoms go away. So,
Okay. So put that on the link as well.
I will definitely give you that, because that's something that if you have very immune compromised patients, and those are the clients that I've talked to, I tell them to get
We're
on
in
the
an
phone.
uncompromised race now.
We are. Well, we're in such a toxic planet. My God, I mean, it's so toxic. You know, they don't have to help us along with their, you know, depopulationist agenda. Let me put it that way. You know, we're there. So, yeah. So I'll send you all that.
Oh, great.
Treat your patients, because you know we're here to want to help people. We're not here because we just want to make money. You know, I want to see people get better.
Well, it is, yeah, you get the rapists on all sides of the story.
Yeah, exactly. You got it. All right, well, I'll let you go, Regina, because I know you get back to work and probably have more patients. And if you have any more further questions, feel free to contact me again.
Yeah, we will. It's a pleasure to
Same here.
you know, catch up and chat about what you're doing.
Sure.
It's just, you know, it's just nice to know that there's some kind of hope for people on the ground if they can. Just have to be careful.
They can, and they can get better. And you know, the two main ingredients that I tell people to stay healthy is detox and do the probiotics, and you know, start building up your immune system. Those are the two key components, and you have to do them simultaneously. You can't do one without the other, because otherwise you're going to become immune compromised again.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. We'll put our own health on top of the list first, and then there's quite a few people that we'll be doing this with, you know, our most and closest
And if you have questions on how to make it, please contact me.
Oh, good. Yeah.
You know, we can get on Zoom, and you have the raw milk, you have the ingredients, and I'll tell you how to ferment the milk. And after you ferment the milk, then I show you how to make the GcMAF. And after that, you're off to the races.
Yeah, and we'll need to be careful to get rid of the casein and
that's easy. The casein, the keep your grains when they are eating and fermenting the milk, that's exactly what they eat. The casein and the sugar are the two primary things. And of course, the whey. Once the milk is fermented, you just have to go over a little bit longer than most for the whey to separate from the milk solids. And I just grab a spatula and move it, and the liquid comes out. And
yeah, okay, cool.
So,
all right.
Right.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.